I know. Dan, where have the videos been? I was promised videos when you started this league. I'm going to take a knee if I don't get videos. You're one of the worst commissioners ever because we don't get videos. Well, frankly, I just don't care because I'm 4-0, so suck it. Well, week 4 is in the books, guys, and I don't know if you know this, but I am 4-0. And that means that I'm undefeated, for those of you who aren't the best at math, and this is pretty much the opposite, the exact opposite of what happened last year. Well, guess what? Your dad isn't a failure anymore. Isn't that great? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You know, this season has been pretty interesting so far. We've got a lot of diamonds in the rough, and Larry won't shut up about the one that he found. And speaking of Larry, if you think that everything isn't already going his way, he just welcomed his second daughter into the world. So congrats, my dude. Hope everything's going well for you. Now, we've also had some very demoralizing injuries, which have put a dent in both seasons of preseason consensus number 1 rankings, Sammy and Caitlin and Deanie. Both of those number 1s are just struggling to buy a win right now. So let's see, how did everybody turn out in week 4? We had a low scoring but close battle between 3-1 Thomas and 0-4 David and Kyle. Thomas was helped by a slew of players, including Tyrod Taylor, Des Bryant, Dalvin Cook. However, with Dalvin's injury to his ACL, he's going to need to start looking for somebody to help him out there. David and Kyle could not bring their 0-4 skid to a halt, and Ty Montgomery's injury doesn't help him out any, because we don't know if he's actually going to come back or not. He says he doesn't have a broken rib, but that's a pretty hard injury to be a running back with. Jeff has continued his dominating 3-1 run as he outscored Jordan's 1-3 team, who is just sputtering at this point and can't even buy a win. Leonard Fournette has proven to be a great rookie pickup for Jeff, as he scored 22 points in this game. Jordan, on the other hand, would have been better just not playing a defense at all, as the Cowboys netted him -5 points for a defense, and that did not help matters at all. I mean, it's the Cowboys. Who thinks they're good? In the battle of the newly engaged couple, 3-1 Evan showed no mercy on his fiancée, beating 1-3 Chanel, 111-99. Evan's strong wide receiver core continues to be the best part of his team, and they have averaged 50 points collectively over the past 4 games. While I know Chanel is happy that Le'Veon is finally starting to produce the numbers that a number 2 pick should, I'm sure she was not happy about losing to her new fiance. Just a pro tip, guys, don't buy Cook champagne, and I probably would not buy anything that has a twist-off cap for your wedding. 1-3 Eric put a stop to his losing streak and beat Caitlin and Deanie 121-99. The Seattle D and the New England kicker put together a huge week for Eric, but it'll be tough for him to reproduce what he did last week, especially because his running back had a season-ending injury. And you know what? Caitlin and Deanie have a lot of great starters. However, they lack depth at those back-end positions like wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, running back 2, flex. And that's going to continue to hurt them, especially with an inconsistent running back 2 like Derrick Henry. 3-1 Anthony and Steve-O beat 2-2 Jake and nabbed a high score of the week by 0.1 points. It's not like I'm mad about it or anything. This was another team that had an insane amount of points scored by their defense and kicker, with the Rams kicker scoring 27 points, which led them to the high score of the week. Finally, I remain undefeated after beating Craig by a score of 136.6 to 100. Todd Gurley and Lamar Miller continue to be the anchors of my team, scoring 60 points together in this game. And you know what? Craig hasn't been putting up bad numbers. He's just been getting really unlucky. But playing Crabtree, who was out due to his injury, didn't really help his luck any, which brings us to the promotion race in Conference 2. Right now, we have 5 teams at the top of the table, within reach of the automatic promotion for winning the regular season. 4 of those teams are producing an average of 100 points a game, with only Thomas being the team that is producing less and still in the hunt for promotion. He also has been outside the top 6 in the power rankings consistently since week 1. So we'll see if he can continue his hot run or if he starts to drop off. The Premier Conference has always been a tight battle, with a lot of parity and managers being able to score at least 100 points a game. This year is no different, with 9 teams at or above 500, and all of them within the 100-point game mark. So let's move on to the weekly recap. Kevin, I don't know what to tell you, bud. You scored 113 points and would have beat half the league with that score. You just happened to run into the high score of the week in Jared. There's not much to say about Jared's team except that it's really good. And even with the loss of Dalvin Cook, he still looks really strong. However, Kevin, I feel like is going to need a lot of luck to continue to put together respectable point totals. So good luck, Kev. You're going to need it. 2-2 Matt beat up on a 1-3 Sammy, 127-95. Matt has a really strong core and is hoping that he can put together a little bit of a run to get better position in the playoff tournament. However, Sammy needs a lot of help in the wide receiver position if he wants to right his ship. Ferg lost his first game to a 1-3 Chris, 120-87. Cam exploded for 33 points on Chris's team, and he's going to need him to continue if he wants to get above 500. However, Ferg was really hurt by Ty Montgomery's injury and is going to need some help from his bench if he wants to keep up his winning ways. Ryan had a 93-point victory over the other Kevin. However, Ryan lost Chris Carson to injury and will need to find a replacement on the waiver wire. For the other Kevin, I'm not too worried about him because he has a pretty middle-of-the-pack team, and this is about what I expect out of him.
That wasn't very nice.
2-2 Groff netted his second win in a row against the other Dan, who also falls to 2-2. Groff had Bilal Powell explode out of nowhere for 27 points to keep his streak going. Dan, the other one, is on his second loss in a row, and he could really use some consistency from all of his players right now, because he needs to stop this slide. Finally, 4-0 Larry continued his dominance over the Premier Conference with a 126-point win over 2-2 Andy. Todd Gurley's resurgence this year has been critical to Larry's run, and I'm sure he's quickly becoming a Rams fan. Meanwhile, Andy needs to address his consistency issues at running back and wide receiver if he expects to go anywhere this season. So this brings us to our relegation battle in the Premier Conference. While any team that is currently at 2-2 can slip into the drop zone, I'm only going to focus on the 3 teams that are below 500. Chris, Sammy, and Kevin are all currently battling for demotion. And right now it looks like Kevin is most likely to be one of the 2 teams that's going to be demoted down into Conference 2. However, I still feel like it's too early to make a good bet on who will fall down to Conference 2, as there are so many teams that are at 2-2 and anybody can make a run to try to keep themselves up. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the power rankings, they take 5 things into account. All of these 5 metrics also help me develop a better picture of who has a better likelihood of winning. And 2 of the most important metrics in these power rankings are overall wins, which is how many wins you would have had if you played each team every week, and the consistency, which is how consistent you are in scoring points every week. And really, I don't like to look at teams that you know are going to be good and you know are going to be bad. I like to look at the teams like Eric, who is currently showing that he's just getting unlucky in conference number 2. He has a dominating roster score, great consistency, and good overall wins. Really what's just happening with him is he's getting unlucky and playing other teams that just score more points than him on a given week. And I know you're thinking to yourself, well, that's kind of obvious. The point is to score more points. However, if he's consistently scoring in the top 4, it just shows that he's not losing by that much. He's unlucky. So if you're looking for a dark horse team in the playoff tournament, I would start looking at Eric, and I would put some money down on him to be able to make a deep run. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, a good example of a team that's just getting lucky is Thomas's team. Really, the only metric for Thomas that's holding him high in the power rankings is his record. His roster is ranked next to last, and everything else is below average in his metrics. So if he continues with this trend, I would either look to his team to start losing soon or to make an early exit from the playoff tournament. Now, in the Premier Conference, we're seeing something that I've never seen done before. Larry has held down the top spots in all metrics for 2 weeks in a row. Normally what happens is a team will cool down after holding all the top spots, but he has consistently held them which is very impressive in its own right. For the most part though, the rankings are what you'd expect out of the Premier Conference. 0-4 Kevin is awful in all of his metrics. And then you have most of the mid-range teams all jockeying for position and holding what they would hold in the standings, which in my mind shows good parity across the whole Premier Conference. And I don't like to say this, Dan, but your numbers don't look too good, bud, because you have a below average total points and an even worse overall wins. You know, I really just expect more out of a fellow Dan and the defending Premier Conference champ. So pick it up, dude. Come on, let's get it in gear. Let's go nab ourselves a win. So that's gonna be the video update for this week. I wanna thank all the dudes and dudettes for watching. If you think I'm crazy or you think my metrics are off, let me know in the group thread. If you haven't paid me yet, please contact me, because otherwise I'm going to be letting you know that you haven't paid and you will not receive any prize money until you do. I hope everyone has a great week and best of luck on Sunday, guys.